speaker series. We had a number of discussions this semester and earlier this year on U.S. Russian relations, but I think never from anyone who was involved both in U.S. and in Russian politics almost simultaneously. So we're very excited to welcome to Fletcher for I think, the first time.
First time, yeah.
Vitali Shkliarov, who is, as you know, been a political advisor to campaigns in the United States, Bernie Sanders most recently in Russia, and then the most recent campaign in Georgia as well, so all across the region that we're focusing on. So I'll turn over to him for comments on what he's learned from campaigns in different countries, and then he'll have questions after that. Happy to talk to you about Russia, about the United States, about Georgia, or anything else that I talk about. So, Vitali, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Hey guys, nice to be here. Really thrilled to be first time at the university, and it's I just said to Chris, it's a big honor for me. Also knowing that the history of the city, of the state, it's a revolutionary state and like a city of protest. And for me it's a special place because not the whole life, but majority of my life, it's been sort of being born in a huge country of totalitarian politics and being by nature rebellion, and I believe pretty much everybody who grew up in Soviet Union, and I was raised in Soviet Union, I'm quite old, has this DNA, so being rebel and being rebellion against the Soviet communist stuff. Partly because of my second nature, being from Belarus, and as you know, as many of you studied maybe Russian history and know that Belarus has been always or many times a battleground for like a lot of wars, and as so many Slavic people say, like the Belarusian people are like the stubborn, like little partisans and quite crazy people who always want to prove that everybody's wrong. So being in a city of protest and of revolution, it's even more thrilling for me because as Chris just mentioned, I spent over a year working for the first, if you want, big revolution in American politics for Bernie Sanders campaign at the time when we had events that were even that full like today. So, and you know what it turned out to be later when you stay in downtown Manhattan in the backstage, and there are 32,000 people just coming to visit one particular candidate. And I believe this was a really important race. Talking about politics, talking about my background, I want to start off with a little bit of my introducing myself and getting warmed up a little bit. And since we are a small audience, maybe we'll just get over to questions that will help me a little bit to know what you're interested in, and then I believe cover more and more like specific topics rather than me just talking and talking because I don't really know what you guys are interested in and what's really important for you today. So, as I said, my name is Vitali Shkliarov. I was born in Belarus. I grew up in Soviet Union at some, my life was shaped actually by one big event. This was sort of like my blessing like blessing from misfortune. I'm talking about the catastrophe of Chernobyl, 1986, 26th of April, partly because it was just coincidence that my hometown is one of the closest cities to this area, and my hometown based on weather conditions and just because of being 18 miles far away from reactor that exploded, was the most devastated or like affected by nuclear rain and nuclear radiation. And that made me as a little child, like being 11, leave the country. Like everybody in my age had to flee the country, at least for the summer, just to escape the radiation, because like young bodies, kid's body is really affected by radiation. So because of this misfortune, I end up for a few weeks, for like months and a half in Germany, like so many kids with Red Cross. And for first time in my life, I saw the West, and I believe this was the turning point in my life. And maybe I'm trying to tell this story just to give you the perspective, the understanding why I'm doing what I'm doing, why I'm politically active, why I'm trying to volunteer, why I'm trying to work for NGOs, why I'm trying to make actually politics accessible for people. Because I was raised and I grew up in a totalitarian regime, in a country where we just had one party, in a country where we didn't have an opportunity to run for office, in a country where when the people were just killed or murdered for their political views. And for the first time at the age of 11, I came to Germany, and I was shocked that all this bad West, that I was already being a pioneer, being part of this whole system that I was raised in, turns out to be like actually really nice. People were really friendly. People were like introducing me to McDonald's and Coca-Cola. And I mean, of course, I saw everything through these kids' eyes and lenses, but still, it was this turning point in my life. Even though I was doing semi-professional sports, I was playing ice hockey. This time, I came home as a different person. I was so amazed by the fact that people were so nice, so differently that we were told at the school how West is, and that Germans, especially for my country, where 7 out of 10 people were murdered during the war, we had particular relationship to, like, mentally relationship to Germany, to Nazi Germany, and all of a sudden you see with your kids' eyes that it's totally different, normal place. People are friendly, people are nice, and actually way nicer than you know it from home. And this had an global impact on me, on this kid who came home and started fanatically, obsessively study German. And this blessing became my hobby, my everything. And short after I became really good in German. I started to take part in this like sort of Olympic Games for German language, for linguistics, and moved on to be one of the best, smartest in German language, at least in the city, at the school first, in the city, and then in the region, in the country. And basically giving up my career or my hobby of sports and starting to work for many NGOs, helping this Chernobyl area and kids living there, orphans, a lot of NGOs dedicating the work for cancer research, and that pivoted my worldview and my desire to help people, and I saw early enough that the life is kind of not really fair to many people just because they born this particular way in this particular country. So that's how I came to Germany and started to study and work for, as I said, for Red Cross and volunteering a lot. And that's where the next turning point in my life happened. The wonderful person who you all know, Barack Obama, came to Berlin. And at this time point, I didn't speak English at all, but I was one of those people standing in this rally, 800,000 people in the middle of Berlin, staring at this guy and not understanding what he's talking about. But I felt, like you feel it when you get to the rock concert. You get like goosebumps. You get moved like by his charisma, by his speech, by whatever it is. It's magic. It's aura. I don't know what it is, but for the first time in my life, I saw a different type of politicians. Different type of political rally. I never seen a political rally. Just to understand like the perspective in my network, in my among my classmates, friends, huge network of relatives, of whatever. My whole city, I didn't know a single person who would be interested in politics. Because politics in my time, in my country, used to be some, not only boring, it was like just a stupid thing to do. Why would you do it? Why would you do it? Because like you start to do politics when you're like 40, 50 or 60, when you're like part of a communist party, and I don't know, like just out of prestige you would do it. But as a young person, you would never consider run for office. And here I am, seeing instead of 70 years old nomenclatura guys, I see like young, charismatic African-American guys smiling, talking to people and making jokes. I understood he probably was joking because everybody was laughing. And, and I was unbelievably moved. I was moved as like, gosh, I wish I could work for this guy. I wish, like so many Americans back then wanted to work and volunteer. I wish we had politicians like that. I would totally work and support and vote for. I would, for the first time in my life, go to election. I never voted in my life, never ever. Why? Why bother? Because 100% of political parties were like just raising the hand and saying, okay, so-and-so will be the next party chair. So this was the starting point for my political engagement, because before it was more like socially dominated area, helping kids, helping people affected by Chernobyl, helping, I don't know, people in need. But then I realized that the only way, I was studying political sciences in Germany, and didn't plan actually do any political work aside of academics. But then I realized it's the only way to change the system is to help people to run, to get new breed of people, new breed of politicians, new breed of new generation of politicians. Now, how do you do it? How do you help people to run? How can you like outtricks or like get a crack in the system that it works out, because the state, the government appears so powerful and so huge. So I went for the first time in my life to the United States and spent 2 weeks in New York, and as every first arrival in the United States, I fell unbelievably all over in love with Americans, American people. I was probably finding this missing part of Soviet nice time among Americans who would like stare at you at the subway and say like, hey man, I like your shoes, and it was totally new for me. Like how would you just a first person to say like you have nice shoes? And it had the same effect on me like as a kid. I was for the next time really shocked and amazed, and I thought, man, it would be great to live here. It would be great to try to work. Maybe that's the way to learn politics. So I moved. I left at this time already I had a little company. I was working for a big German consulting company, sort of like McKinsey, and working on my PhD. I got an offer to work at the university to teach that I refused, and I moved to States in the hope I'll be the king. I'll make my dream come true. Now I'm in the center of politics, in Washington D.C. And as energized and as motivated I was, I realized really soon it's not like that. DC works totally different. You're nobody. I said like here I am having almost PhD. I studied twice in my life, master degrees, 2 master degrees, like smart guy, couple of languages, nothing. I sent probably like around 400 resumes and didn't get a single interview, none, zero. It was frustrating, being 35, giving up your family. I had my son on the way already. I met my wife, who is American, and all of a sudden you find yourself being just like battling for a job. I never sent any resumes in my life. It's been, like university working, it just came up somehow. But for the first time you send and you do and nothing happens. And it was hard. It was hard to take this. I took it personal, of course. I was like, well, Americans probably not that nice. I don't know why can't they hire me? So, my wife actually was someone who said like, look, you were like so moved by getting to the United States, you know, you want to just be part of it, like, why you care about job, like just go and do some stuff. And it was so obvious, and it was probably hard for a man ego to swallow, to work for free when you used to work for money, you know, it was hard for man ego to swallow being independent for the first time in your life. But I essentially had to do it and started to volunteer at the age of 36, 35 almost. For maybe for American mentality that's normal, but like for like typical Russian stubborn mentality was hard step to take, like just to get like 5 levels down and then start again. It's basically like starting reading again, learning reading. But that's how I end up volunteering for Obama campaign in a very famous DNC building that got hacked a couple of years later, which was ironically. My first job was doing the phone calls. And as you can imagine, someone who just arrived in the United States who didn't speak English, speaking, "Hi, my name is Vitali. I'm here on behalf of American president." And it was a disaster. You know, the worst job you can possibly get as a non-speaking dude for the first time in America is to do cold phone calls. Not only it's hard, but like when you approach a person, when you talk, you kind of like read the body, the gestures, but on a phone, you're like blind. It's hard, and we used to have this scoreboard, like John, I don't know, Nick, and then Vitali, you know, like 120 calls, 110 calls, 5. It was depressing. It was so depressing. Basement, no windows, 10 hours a day, just phone calls, and you have like 5 or 7 actual leads, and it was terrible. Terrible. After 3-4 days, I was like, okay, I'm done. I don't want to do it anymore because it's frustrating. And the only thing that happened after that kept me staying was actually my. So you have basically always in a campaign for someone who did work for a campaign or a volunteer. You have always 2 types of metrics. You count the amount of people you turn out, and how many people really like join the campaign, like volunteer or donate money. So not only like leads, but also like who you recruit. But then on the flip side, because of my accent, everybody, like 99% of the people were dropping the phone after like me asking 3 times to repeat the sentence, you know, because I couldn't get it. But this 1% of people who would stay on the phone, they would always, like, where are you from? Well, I'm from Belarus. Where's that? You know, you get in a conversation. You know, then I was always telling honestly the story. Like, look, I loved so much Obama. I just want to work for him. I'm not even an American citizen. Like how can you not come and help us? You know, I came like those 10, 12,000 miles far away for free, and I'm not even an American citizen. So you gotta come and help. You know. And it was like always bingo. I recruited so many people like just because of this story. Like I made people feel bad. You know? I didn't know that, but it just happened. So as much as I was like really underperforming, like underperforming with my amount of calls, but I was overperforming by engaging people just through my story or my accent that gave me away. So, and to be fair, and I believe this is one part of my that amazed me about America the most is that I thought, okay, I'm gonna be stuck here for the next 2 years, like just working my butt off, just doing those phone calls. But to be fair, like that's what makes America so amazing for me, especially for someone who is not from this culture. That you get this fair shot, you have this opportunity, you have to show what you can. But you also get the opportunity to move on, you know, like to get better, like to get more responsibilities. And short after, I believe like 3 or 4 weeks, for the first time, I got my own team, because people figured out that I'm essentially a good trainer for phone calls. Because I was training, I was just saying like, guys, just tell the story. You know, like, don't make up something, just tell the story. What are you doing? Why do you do it? Why are you here tonight? Why are you doing it? Like, don't try to be smart. Don't use this political language. Just tell the story. What moves you? What moves you? Why are you doing this? What are you getting up for every morning? And short after, I was paid for the first time, and it was like living a dream. Not only working for Obama, not only in America, but getting paid for it. It was like crazy. So that's how I got involved, and then moved on to many states, and moved on to many jobs, and that's when I started is American politics. And after many years, and even meeting a couple of political awards, believe it or not, I realized that this type of grassroots activism, this type of engagement, this type of politics from bottom up is just not existing in Russia, just not existing in Ukraine. That's how I started to help there, and go from DC for like 6-7 months, for a couple of months, and help Russian opposition to build campaigns. Back then, after a successful Obama campaign, it was all about digital, all about technology. It was easy for me because I learned it firsthand on campaign, like from A to Z, from being volunteer up to the state director, and just applying the same knowledge to different countries that don't have this scale of democracy, don't have this tool, was actually really fulfilling and interesting. And that's how I got involved in a lot of presidential races, like last in Georgia, working for Saakashvili, and doing a really great campaign in Georgia, for presidential race in Russia, where we tried to support the presidential candidate Ksenia Sobchak, a couple more races in Ukraine right now. So, and then that's what I'm doing now, and that's what I'm trying to teach when I train people, and to do it like myself is like get my hands dirty. I'm not just like teaching or lecturing. I do it like every day. So, and I believe this is part of the leadership and the role model that you have to bring in a campaign or in every actually area of our life. It's just not to be afraid to get your hands dirty, and to just get in the rain and outdoors, even if you're a campaign manager. And I believe that motivates a lot of people. And because I'm living just first years in America, like I'm sort of like in kindergarten right now, you know, like you all lived here the whole life, it's not new for you. For me, a lot of stuff is new, so I'm more energized about it, I'm more motivated, you know, like kids are like happy about toys, I'm like happy about some stuff, and that makes probably easy to motivate people, like when you, like for example, for Bernie, I was running an operation of over 5,000 people, and if you step out of your role, like, okay, you guys do this and this, and I'm here the boss, but just get with them on the street and share the sandwich and run away from some crazy Republican or whatever. I believe that's what politics is about. And let's, because I can talk, let's better get to the questions. I believe it's more interesting because I can really report firsthand from some campaigns, from some experience, the differences. Maybe you are interested in Russian politics, maybe you're interested in, I write a lot, I'm working on my book right now, about like what is happening right now between the US and Russia, which is a disaster. Maybe you can talk about that. So please, floor is open, and anytime also do me a favor, interrupt me, because I can get carried away really easy, and then you see it, you know. So interrupt me, just we can cover more. I'm just afraid that we don't have much of time. Sorry. So go for it.
So you worked for a few years in American politics and then went to Russia to manage Ksenia Sobchak's presidential bid. What were some of the major things you learned working for American politicians that helped you in managing a presidential campaign in Russia?
You know, there's rocket science. There's no silver bullet. Mostly, you deal with the same type of problems. And in Russia, especially in Russia, because of the history, because of this because of disconnect between the government and the society, because Russian people were never, like throughout the history, if you look at the Soviet time, if you look at the newer history of Russia, there hasn't been a lot of politics. So the biggest issue you deal with and you fight against, the same in the United States, but especially in those regimes like Russia, is lack of belief. It's like disconnect. Like people are really divided. Like the state and the people are like two different entities because of all Soviet time. Having just one party being really politically undeveloped, if you want, to try to convince people to believe that their voice matters, trying to teach them how to do it, trying to help them to get up again after they have fallen dozens, hundreds of times, and they naturally, and this is totally understandable, have disconnect to this government. This is the challenge. This is the challenge here, because of the American history, because the politics here is a part of American DNA. For Americans, elections are like a part of a culture. It's like I don't know, like New Year's Eve for Russians. Like 4th of July here is something special, and it's not super special in Russia in a sense. That makes sense. I believe the government, the Russian government, committed throughout the history so many crimes against their people, and still declares this right to commit crimes that the people are just the whole. Actually, if you want, the whole history of Russia has been this fight, people against the government and government against people. They don't trust. They don't live together. They don't marry. Here, if you get to election booths, if you vote, you know that your voice matters. You know that some campaigns are won by just like small margin of difference. Over there, generation after generation, people were raised with the understanding that their voice doesn't matter, that nothing will change, that it doesn't matter what you do, it will still stay the same. And I believe the hardest challenge over there is to overcome it. Secondly, of course, if you run, and I've been working just for a position, if you run a positional campaign, you battle against all too powerful state, because you don't have access to media, you don't have access to fundraising, you don't have access to anything. It's really hard. So it could be just challenging. It could be also, it from the line, from all my colleagues, you can be sentenced, you can be even dead. This is, of course, also a major change for so many people, just to decide to run, to be willing to take this risk. Like if you 17, 15 and you get on the street to protest, it's not violent, it's one story. Once you're 25 and you have a kid and you have a job that you might lose if you get in troubles politically, so you will reconsider this decision. So that's why I think when we talk about state propaganda and about these numbers, poll numbers regarding Russia, that so many percent, like this famous 14-15% of protest electorate is there. I don't think it's correct, because there's way more. But the challenge is to help people to believe it matters and to take those risks. The risk of not being persecuted, the risk of to give the money to campaign and not to lose your company, the risk not to be beaten up just for your political views. So this is hard. Here, if you explain, if you are trying to turn out people, you say like, look, it matters because this and this and this, but it's easy to vote here. You just get up, you have to maybe go in the rain, but it's not dangerous. Over there, it's hard, it's sometimes dangerous, but also the distrust in politics is so unbelievably huge. It's like a huge step to take. This is hard. But to summarize what I learned one my main lesson is that talking and listening is the number one weapon. So to tell the truth, especially for Russia, it's really obvious that the candidates talk to the audience, to the electorate, through TV, through media, through social network, whatever, but never one-on-one. So now, we ran a campaign of good cause. We turned around the paradigm. We basically did the same what Bernie did. We ran a lot of events. So we ran, just to give you a perspective, Navalny, when he was running for mayor of Moscow, conducted roughly 83 events in the whole city of Moscow, which is a huge city, in 2.5 months. When we were running the campaign of Dudkov, who was the last oppositional member of parliament in Russia, we ran 254 events in 4 weeks. 5 events every day, every 2 hours. So, and this is a new type of a challenge for a candidate to face the audience 5 times a day, not just aggressions, not just aggressive people who get to fight with you, not just only from city hall paid provocators who throw acts at you and stuff like that, but also to do it mentally, 5 times a day, stay against the public because you cannot run any properties to run events. You have to do it outside. That was the trick, because even with Sobchak campaign, you would think presidential race, it's all public. Guess what? We tried to just rent one place to run a town hall in Moscow, which is considered a really oppositional city. It's not like suburb of Russia in Siberia or whatever. It's Moscow. 74 leasing management companies said no to us. So we couldn't find one single place until we found someone who owned a little bar, moderate bar, because the owner was Ukrainian. And because of our statement to Crimea, from day one of our campaign, we said Crimea belongs to Ukraine. He said out of his support for our political activism, I don't care, just run it here. But we had a lot of issues with police. 5 minutes in the town hall, there were police trying to, oh, there are bombs, we have to evacuate everybody. So they have a lot of tricks. So this is hard. This is hard, and especially when you get a little bit more in the regions, people just get beaten up for nothing, just for political views, and that's challenging.
Please. Thank you for being here with us today. So you started your speech by giving us your story, and I presume maybe this is a very U.S. influence because storytelling in U.S. politics is a central element of a successful campaign, and I guess this is a lesson that the Obama 2 successful presidential campaigns gave us. Do you think that the storytelling is a universal trend in nowadays politics? Have you seen it not only in the US but also in Russia and Georgia?
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a bit on the storytelling part?
Sure, I believe so. First of all, the short answer is yes. The longer one is, we all are raised by stories. Fairy tales, stories, through middle age up to those days, we all tell stories. It used to be different stories, now it's maybe a different story. I used to watch, Tom and Jerry, new generation has different stories. But the story, it turns out, is the easier way for people to connect. So when you run a campaign, when you develop a strategy, so what's your goal? Your goal is to turn out as many as possible people. So basically, you are running a campaign. Campaign is a startup. There's a big difference. A startup, normal startup, you have to develop a product. You have to find a niche. You have to develop a product for this niche. You have to advertise it, that as many as possible people know about your product. And on day one, unlike a traditional startup, just on one day, they all go and shop. Basically, it's like new iPhone, So you have to get people lined up on just one day, and then you have to shut down right away. This is the hard part. Because in a regular startup, like Uber, whatever, you have time to develop. Here, you have limited time. You working backwards. So it's natural, it's easy, like in this environment, in this harsh environment, you have limited time, limited finances, you have limited attention, especially nowadays. You have a lot of competition. The easiest way to connect a story, yeah, so it's just universal, but how do you adapt the story? How do you translate the story? This is challenging. You know, I know it firsthand because I've seen a lot of American political consultants going abroad. I work in Germany, in Ukraine, in Georgia, in many places, and they think sometimes a lot of consultants go ahead and say like, oh look, we just copy paste the strategy, we just like translate yes we can and bring it to Moldova. That's not going to work. It's just not working because people are different, issues are different, they connect differently. They tell story from childhood on differently. That's why, for example, the last campaign in Georgia, which was a huge success, the first time in the history of Georgia, after the departure of Saakashvili in the last 6-7 years, the opposition, we united 11 parties in one campaign and made it to the second round. Like, it was a huge success. But why? Because we developed, like I developed with my team a strategy and some stuff, not in a way, here I am, the guru, I tell you what to do. No, you get a lot of people. You get a lot of people, you get locals. You get a lot of input from their stories, from their lives. And the only way to run a campaign like this is to run campaign open sourced. So you don't have any like small circle of people behind the doors, political decisions. No, everybody takes part. Everybody takes part. You have no secrets. It's all, it starts from office that has to be, in my opinion, always like a call center, like open. And it goes up to the management decisions, and it's sometimes hard for many candidates to agree on that. Just to share, not only like your public side, but everything with your team. And this is one of my my requirements. I said like, well, that's how we run. Otherwise, I'm not doing this because otherwise you have a hard time to motivate people. Otherwise, you have a hard time to be honest. And I believe, especially if you're underdog, especially if you're working for a position, you have to find a different way to communicate with people. And the only way to communicate with people is to be honest. Like, that's where you connect. That's where you say, like, okay, look, guys, we have this and this, but we don't have this and this. I don't want to like pretend that we are. No, it is how it is. But once you open up, that's how we fundraised. Two years ago, I'll give you another example. For the first time in Russia, a lot of money, and it was like a notion that it's impossible for opposition in Russia to fundraise, and it's really hard. It's really hard. First of all, people are poor. There's not that much money. People are not willing to donate because it's dangerous. It's dangerous to get involved in politics, in opposition politics. Now, how do you fundraise there? But by creating tools and creating a platform that gives everybody insights in what you're doing. On the one hand, it's makes no sense. You would think, well, but then the Kremlin knows what you're doing. Yes, that's correct. And like so many people ask me, like, oh, what about some like spies that are sending your campaign to work on your campaign and get all the secrets? No, there's no secrets. They should know what they're doing. But that gives your team unbelievable sense of commitment and transparency. You know, if there is not an office for just a couple of bosses, but everybody is a boss, you basically achieving two goals. First of all, everybody is honest and works honestly. And secondly, you can scale. You can basically delegate a lot of work. So how does it work in a regular company? Like if the boss not there, like sort of like the discipline starts like to fade away. You know, like people are taking coffee or work, or even worse, people don't know what to do, trying to reach the boss. So you know it all. What if you create an environment, and that's what I learned on Obama's campaign, is this typical slave flock principle, like I, we, you, like I teach you, we do it together, and I observe you, and then you do it yourself. And then you teach the next one, the same principle. That's how you scale. And in order to scale, and in order to have a lot of people feeling engaged, you have to be equal. You have to be, in this sense, everybody has to be volunteer and campaign manager at the same time. And if you can create this environment, this startup feeling, that everybody is like knows what to do, and even if the boss is not there, everybody still knows what to do and can replicate the boss, then you won't, because you create a structure that lives like an organism, you know, and that's basically, it's not new. We know those approaches from Google, from big IT companies, but it seems not to be taking place a lot in politics yet. You know, yeah, please. I'll just give one more example. What we did 2 years ago, what the press labeled as the first political Uber. I was thinking the whole time, what is the problem with politics? Why people are not like getting involved? Why people are not believing in politics and not running for office? Now, if you step back and observe what happened to our life, to our technology development, you'll see that just with this little device, we can consume music differently. You know, and just not a long time ago, in order to get a song, we needed to get in a bus, in a car, get to the CD store, like find if you like the CD, but maybe you weren't there, then you have to order. And just because you like one song, you have to buy the whole CD or vinyl or whatever. Now you just click one time and you have the song. Not only that gives you the opportunity to consume more, but just turn around the model and see how the music industry has changed. Previously, in order to be a successful musician, you had to know A&R manager at some Universal or Sony Music. You know, you have to send your demo tape. You know, like if your demo tape was taken, maybe you liked, but you were like one of a million. You know, that's why we had just Michael Jackson, Mick Jagger, and just like a handful of rock stars. Now, everybody who has this, or iTunes and laptop today, can be a music producer, can distribute music at the same level like Britney Spears or Michael Jackson back then. So how much more opportunities, how much more talent, but also how much more content you have. If we get so much competition, it's getting noisy, you're right, and it's getting hard to like determine what's better. But it liberates the market for music industry. The same way the way we consume tickets, we travel, we eat, we get a cab. So it seems in many areas that the life has changed. But what about the politics? And I was thinking, like, politics is still the same. Like, in order to get politically active or like politically successful, you have basically just two ways. You have like the party way. You have to sign all the small prints and like spend 10, 15 years, whatever, in a party working your butt off in order to be noticed or nominated from some white 50+ male campaign chair, you know? Or you have to have a lot of money in order to hire some consultants, blah, 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 doing polling, buying TV ads and stuff like that. So why? Why do you have, in other words, why do you have to have in MBA today in order to run a company? Why a 15-year-old kid can develop an app or like multi-million-dollar enterprise and not having any degrees? So my thinking was this linear path, how I call it, like of career, has changed. You don't have to do these particular steps in order to get there. So what if we lower this verge, this entry point of politics? What if politics, like Uber, like Kayak, like iTunes, becomes as easy, like it becomes as easy to run for office and to get elected as to run a ride with Uber? What if the campaign doesn't cost $1 million? It just costs $2. You would be way more willing to take this risk, unlike to get in $200,000 debt. You know, you will be more willing to try a couple of times and maybe succeed then. So what if we do it differently? What if we change this paradigm of politics? And that brought me to Russia. It's an ideal place because of political situation there. And we ran a huge municipal campaign with this first, how we called it, political Uber. We developed the software. We made simple speech. We said, guys, if you want to run for office, it's like not a rocket science. You just do it. We pay for everything. Like, it's a good deal. Look, you don't have any risk. You run for office, cool. Maybe you're unemployed, maybe you're like activist, maybe you have a lot of time. Run for office. What about campaign? We cover this. Campaign manager, we cover this. Like graphic designer, lawyer, but we cover this. What about party affiliation? No party affiliation. You run whatever you want. Even though even if you win, you don't have to sign up with any party. You can stay like whatever. There's no political agenda. We just want to help you, just to give you service, a ride, free ride. Free ride in political campaign. So guess what? And then we were turning upside down the model of political parties, because the political parties are, and the whole politics sphere is set up like in a 20th century model, so where the party has an office, and you have to get there, knock on doors, so like, well, I would love to like enter the party, maybe you like be active, and maybe like one day run for office. What if you don't have to do it? What if we like Google look for you? What if we like party just go on hardcore research for people? So what we did, we put up a lot of, not ads, nothing. We just put up a lot of people on the streets who said like, stop people on the street, at a supermarket, at a university, at a campus, and they're like, you want to run for office? I don't know. Now look, here's the deal. Doesn't cost you anything. We give you a campaign manager, everything is paid for, zero risk, investment, 2 months or 1 month of campaign. You may get elected in 4 weeks, may not, but you have no risk. So we recruited this particular way almost 3,000 people. And I'm saying, this is not a party, this is not like some big oligarch in the back. Just me, my friend, a couple of more crazy people. And we ran for the first time, and I believe I was researching and looking if there were another example like this worldwide. We ran simultaneously 1,017 campaigns at the same time. The whole principle behind it is really good, really clever. Like if you run one campaign, you have always 50-50 split. You may win, you may lose, right? But you like spend $100,000, let's say. Yeah? If you for $100,000 run 1,000 campaigns, $100 each. So even if you have not 50-50 split, even if you have like 20-80 split, you still are winning 200 campaigns. So it's crazy. Like what happened? We ran 1,017 campaigns, and guess what? We won for the first time, like I believe in the history, 267 seats in one move. We became from 0 to like second highest political in Moscow political force with no party, no affiliation, nothing. First time candidates, 267 new seats. Guess what? The Congress here, the Democrats or Republicans are battling about like 7 or 10 or 12, 15 seats. Like what if you set the goal not for the one election cycle, but what if you set the goal for like 4, 5, or like 3 election cycles? What if you run 1,000 campaigns? From 1,000 you have 200. Let those 200 people work for years. From those 200 people, you may have like 50 highly qualified to run next or after next cycle for Congress or Senate, and all of a sudden you don't have a problem anymore to win a Congress. So it's, you see, it requires a different goal setting. Why? Because DNC or like Republican National Committee, they don't plan like in a long term because they want to be re-elected. They want to keep their seats. But normal enterprise like Amazon can plan in 15, 20 year steps. Amazon has been with non-profit for 15 years. Now it's #1 company. Uber or Lyft is still unprofitable, but they get there. But you have to have this guts to continue to work, to fight so hard, so long. And this is what lacks on politics today. So I believe by lowering the urge, like making it easy for people to run, and as I said, like 200, almost 300 people became elected. 700 out of them didn't win, but now they have more experience and they want to run again. So that's how you multiply. That's how you scale. And the lady just left. I'm telling you, I'm getting carried away. Just drop it.
Thank you for coming to speak to us tonight. And I actually have two quick questions. One is, whose campaigns did you manage in Ukraine? And when you were working in Ukraine, did you encounter the same challenges as in Russia, or was it something different?
They made me sign NDA, like really harsh, not to work for right now in Ukraine because it's political, because of the war with Russia, it's a political big topic. So, matter of fact, what happened to me in Georgia, because I didn't speak Georgian, it was also challenging to run a campaign for the first time in my life when you don't speak the language. Even though like majority of Georgians can speak and understand Russian, but you still run a campaign in Georgian language, so you can't understand anything. So that gave our opponents, the oligarch Ivanishvili, who was backed by Kremlin, a huge opportunity to attack us. Like basically they attacked the campaign, attacking me, like saying like he is a Russian agent, you know, like helping to have here next orange revolution in our beautiful country. So, and it turns out to be really bad. So they really targeted me and the campaign through this sort of like backdoor. So it became at the end of the campaign really challenging to run it because we were vulnerable because of this. So sometimes, and I understand especially in those type of countries and democracies, it's sometimes better to be quiet who you are and who you work for because it just backfires the campaign. So I cannot get to this question. What was the second part?
The second one was when you were working in Ukraine, did you have the same challenges as in Russia, or?
In Ukraine is in many ways better in terms of political engagement. They are like, I don't know, Slavic people on the one hand, but they're so different because of probably Maidan, because of Orange Revolution, because of this vast part of Ukraine traditionally being like sort of rebellion. They are so more politically engaged. They are so easy to mobilize, to get involved. On the flip side, they are still, in my opinion, I hope I'm not like hurting anybody's feelings who's from Ukraine here, but they are still in a mindset a little bit even worse than Russians, because they are still a little bit like in the 90s. Like even if you in Russia right now run a campaign, unless you run it like somewhere really, like a really remote village, you can buy the vote. You can like come over and say like, here's a bottle of vodka, give me a vote. It might work, but it's actually those days are gone. Like it's really almost impossible. Now in Ukraine today, this is a part of you will be surprised, part of campaign strategy. Just buying the vote. You just like coming over, like giving poor people spaghetti, you know, or like a pack of rice, and they say, okay, it's my vote, you know. And this is terrible. This is terrible just because it hasn't been, it shouldn't be like this. And this is all just because people are so desperately poor. And this is ironic because country is really wealthy. There's a lot of money. If you see the media landscape of Ukraine, I've never seen so many different news channels, TV channels. So like in terms of freedom of speech, wow, it's like well more like miles away from Russia, well developed. But in terms of political, I don't know, like knowledge or like people believing in politics, it's way worse. It's hard to work. So my next project, we will try. I don't know if it's gonna work, but we will try to do the same type of a political Uber, like recruit first-time candidates on the streets, like just people with zero political experience, just to get fresh blood in the game for the upcoming parliament selection. We'll see how it does work, because with this amount of media, with this amount of political engagement, and generally very political mindset in Ukraine throughout the war or because of Maidan, I believe it could be really successful. But once again, it's the political sphere in Ukraine is quite different. It's a bit, unfortunately, even worse, like in terms of belief in politics among people. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. My question is concerning to post-Soviet Union countries, Georgia, Ukraine. I'm from Armenia, and we just had a revolution in my country, and these political campaigns, and the tradition of the political campaigns, the way that is being held in developed countries, Western countries, is becoming more important than the recent elections in Armenia, which was more or less was the most free and fair election we had. I'm comparing the Armenia to Georgia now. That recently had presidential elections, and yesterday it was ODIHR's report released, which was criticizing the elections more than any other elections that was held previously in Georgia. So Georgia went up. At some point they were the most democratic country in the region, and then Ivanishvili came, and then they went down again. The previous elections were again worse, and there was lots of hate speech, there was lots of violations, use of administrative resources, vote buying, etc., etc. This is a risk that I think that Armenia also facing at some point when we have a change of regime or change of power. This might arise. How do you think we can stop from being in the same situation as Georgia was?
How do you deal with bad answers or criticism? I think it's not easy to stop this development, unfortunately, just because of Russia. Russia is a big problem. Because Russia is trying to keep the sphere of influence, obviously. And this is from geopolitical point of view, from Machiavellian point of view, this is normal. This is it's like sports, like boxing. You want to win, you want to maintain the power. So this was a problem with Georgia. It wasn't a problem to win the campaign. We won the campaign. The problem is that 30 miles away from Tbilisi, from the capital of Georgia, is the occupation zone. 20% of the country is still occupied, and there are tanks. And now, and I've been briefing OECD, I've been conducting a huge observation mission in Georgia, creating it from scratch ourselves. I've been dealing with American embassy there. It's understandable that nobody wants the risk of winning election in a cost or for the cost of tanks being in 2 hours in the center of the city. The risk is too high. So, and from also a OECD or American point of view, from foreign policy point of view, it might sound crazy right now, but better to keep it the way it is rather than have new conflict there. Rather than have new conflict with Russia, So it's the game. It sounds really strange, really Machiavellian, but the gain is too little compared to the price you have to pay. So this is really sobering experience for me. I was really hit, depressed actually, because we won the campaign. But the well-developed democracy in Georgia, the number one democracy among those East European satellites, with Misha, did a phenomenal job there. Really well-developed countries still could, in the second round, falsificate unprecedented, just unbelievably. Just imagine. I wrote a couple of articles about it. I did a research and found out that, I'll give you 2 examples, really interesting examples. The waterfowl, the country is little. So for someone who doesn't know Georgia, just imagine a country of the size of 3.5 million people. So now I actually understand why Misha was so successful. Misha is great. He was educated here, he's smart, he's brilliant, but also the country is small. It's easy to convert this country, easy to convert small, unprofitable enterprise in a successful with a change of management. But it's unbelievably hard to do with a large company. So the same problem is here. It's hard to transform Russia to democracy because it's huge. It's huge, and even as a president of this size of a country, you're powerless. Like, the problem is not political. The problem is the size of the country and a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of people who make so much money on it, who Putin cannot actually manage. It's just impossible. So in Georgia, it was possible because Saakashvili was effective and the country is small. So now, just imagine 3.5 million people, the population. Usually, if you have a look at the voter file, so usually from 60, depends on the country, from 60 to 70 to 75% of the country population is eligible to vote. Why? Because rest is like kids and like people who moved away and like people who generally like old and like, senior people who cannot vote. So roughly. In the United States, I believe from 350 million people, I believe 220 or roughly 60-something% are eligible to vote. It doesn't mean that everybody is going to vote, just eligible, okay? Based on constitution and demographics. Imagine, from 3.5 million people, roughly should be like 2.2 million people eligible to vote. Like the voter file of Georgia, and nobody really paid attention to. I researched and wrote a big piece on it in Russian media, and then in German, and in American media. It turns out that the voter file in Georgia is 3.7 million big. So basically, everybody in the country is eligible to vote. Like, hold on, wait. Like, let's get the census data. Like, how many years old, blah blah blah. So we come down to 2.2. Who are those like over 1 million people? Dead souls. I call them dead souls, like the Gogol, dead souls, like people partly who moved away, who passed away, people who are not eligible to vote, never voted. Yeah? And especially in a country like Georgia, because it's small, you have a lot of the same names. Like, this is also an interesting phenomenon that you have in America a lot. You have a lot of Smiths, you know. So you have like Ivanishvili's like millions of them. Right? So now, if you spread among thousands of Smiths, like 200 more, nobody will ever find them. So basically, they have a lot of not existing people. Why so? Let's see, the first round they lose it. That's what happened. And then the second round, usually you have for incumbent like people for a position in the second round turn out more. This is like physics, you know. This is like Isaac. You can, like if you look at a lot of races and do the analysis, you can turn out from the first to second round roughly around 15, 20, 25% more people at the most. We did a good job. We did like huge field operation there. We built from scratch up to 14,800 people, volunteers in Georgia. Was like nobody's seen. Like, it's been just tremendous. 6 months I've been there, like every single day, working with my team and creating this machine. We were able with all this machine, to turn out 22% more from first round to the second. Now, interesting one. Guess how much the government, the proclaiming government, turned out from first to the second round?
It was 37, 38, and then it came to
100%. 100%. It was so obvious. It was so like not only they went on TV 2 weeks before election, so like everybody who votes for Ivanishvili, we will write off your debt, your loans. Which is like, what? Like basically you have a loan at the bank, if you vote for me, like I just forget about it. Cool deal, yeah? Not only like they have 300,000 something, I believe that's also not existing people in the voter file. Then I found a second proof, and I published it again. Like the voter file in the last 6 years of Georgia, let's say, went from, in the last 6 years, had an increase of 5,000 or 6,000 people. The scale, 5,000 or 6,000, 5,000 something. In the last 2 weeks of election, I compared the voter file, what nobody does, but we have like a lot of cool people on our campaign. We just went like really manually and compared name by name. And it turns out that in the last 2 weeks of the campaign, the second round of the campaign, all of a sudden the water file increased by 27,000. In the last years, there were just 5,000 natural increase, people were 19 or whatever. The scale of the small country, just 6,000. And just in 2 weeks, they all of a sudden had the water file compared from 2 weeks before, or 20,000 non-existing records. So they did a lot. OECD stated right on the day of election, it was unprecedented that they threatened people, they suppressed people. We had the best case, the best story, and that was a really big success. We created a crowdsourced online platform for observation. We basically emulated the Central Election Committee because we know from those regimes you will never get the real data. So they say okay, turnout here was so many people voted for candidate A and for candidate B. How will you prove it? You cannot look in the files. So what we did, we created in the whole country on every single voting location. We had our people, we created a platform on these Telegram bots and WhatsApp bots that you could submit the results in real time, videos, photos, proofs of fraud, of violations. And we created a totally open platform for everybody to see in real time what's happening in the whole country. It was massive. But within hours, over 2,000 violations. And all of a sudden, you win. You win this media battle because you're not just stating there well, the election were conducted with some violation. You say guys, here's the monitor, 2,000. You can click each of each of those fraud cases and see name, date, place, geotag, and what happened, and the proof, video, blah blah blah. And all of a sudden, OECD is whoa, we've never seen tools like this. This is so cool. I said, guys, you have so much money. You let travel 40 to 50 people from abroad to Georgia. Everybody has a hotel, expenses. So from 3,700 voting locations, you covering 50 with your observers. How effective is that? How much? I don't want to ask how much you guys pay for this cool tool and treat, and they stay there for a week, having a nice time. Cool, We did it for free, online, and just said people, if you wanna have democracy in your country, if you wanna that nobody cheats on you, if you really believe, put aside who you wanna vote for. It's not political. We just for transparency that everybody's honest, that everybody does the same fair game to each other. So if you see something, you don't have to tell us who did you vote for. Just take a picture, take a video, send it to us. And it was massive. It was massive. They could do it because as soon as they sent some people to falsificate at location number 85, 2 minutes later we knew about it. And they were oh, what are we doing now? The whole strategy fell apart. So that's how we won. So what I'm saying, in those regimes, in those countries where you get to the point that you will lose the power entirely, and this is the same problem with Russia. I always tell, it's not about just losing an election. Here in America, you lose the election, you have a shot next time. For us, for opposition, it's maybe losing or winning the election. For those guys, it's losing or
losing everything. Yes, it's all about losing everything in these countries.
well, or getting behind bars. It's not just losing the election. It's just or maybe arrested for the rest of life. So they battle differently. When it comes in Georgia, we never went so far in Russia. It would be way harsher. But in Georgia, because it's such a democratic country, went so far almost winning the campaign, we actually won it. I see the data. I know every single voter in the country. I can see it. The first time I applied big data from here to Georgia, and I can prove it, not just do rhetoric, prove it with data, But when it came to losing everything and having a problem with Russia or maintaining the power, first of all, the government just said, okay, we'll go all in. They falsificated massively and didn't care anymore about the opinion of OECD or Americans or whatever or the European Union. You know? And secondly, the political willingness was not there from our partners, like NATO, European Union, in America, to support it because the risk is too high to get in contact with Russia. This is the explanation. So coming back to your question, as long as a country is financially and from resources point of view dependent on big players like Russia, because of the gas, Armenia, or Mali, Belarus, or Ukraine, you see the same gas transfer, you know, oil, or like Europe, Germany and France partly, or Hungary, you have to do this. Then you will keep being dependent. So the only way out is to set up the country like, I don't know, like, once again, it's easy to set us down like Estonia, because it's a small country. Set up like profitable and independent from any player, from Moscow or from Washington, like in a way, does that make sense? And I hope it will happen. I mean, at least with Xi'an, it seems to be, at least it was a cool revolution, a violent revolution. That was really cool. Yeah.
We don't have that much time left, so do you want to collect a couple of questions maybe?
Sure, I'll try to. I'm sorry, guys. I thought too much. Okay, go ahead.
You said towards the end of your last question, talking about kind of more structural impediments to democratic transitions in post-Soviet Eurasian states. Can you talk a little bit about your experience having operated in these systems? What you see as the like kind of key structural changes that we need to see to have kind of the more grassroots political activism actually like take hold and be more successful in states like
Are you talking about like grassroots in America or?
no, in outside of America, kind of taking that same grassroots political movement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some more questions?
Can you also, I know you mentioned that you're Belarusian, can you talk about some of the prescriptions we may see happen there, like mirroring some of the other work we've seen in the region?
In Belarus?
Yes, please.
Okay. Shall I take those first? Well, I'll do the second one, it's easiest. That was hard. Hard. You know, you can sometimes jump with a parachute, it's cool, you know? But to jump without parachute and to like hope to be cool and stay alive is quite a different risk, but also mindset. Belarus is heavily dependent economically and politically on Russia. Nothing will change there. I wrote a lot about it until some changes will happen in Russia, because it's just not from point of view of strategy, of military strategy, is important to Russia. You know, it doesn't make big of difference for missiles to skip the Belarus and to hit the Russia. So this notion coming from this after war time, that the longer the distance to the enemy, the safer you live, and every buffer, Ukraine or Belarus or Baltics, is your like safe zone. Is not applicable anymore, because the missiles can reach you no matter what. So it doesn't play a big strategic role from a defense point of view, but like in the mentality of Russians, the mentality of Putin, who sees the collapse of Soviet Union as a major tragedy, as he said, of the 20th century, who wants to stay in the history and the memories of people as a this president who united Russia again, or like parts of the former Soviet Union again. It's hard to swallow to lose Ukraine. It's hard to swallow, of course, to especially to lose Belarus. So I don't see a lot of change happening there soon. To your question, to go ahead and engage there politically is quite risky, especially for me personally, because my mom and dad still live there, so I'm heavily dependent on being able to travel in the country. So like Georgia, after the campaign, I've been detained many times on the border, for hours, till 5 in the morning. I've been tracked trying to make the existence of political power. So let's say, like, if you're trying to challenge those guys, they don't hesitate. That makes sense. So, like, even real democratic Georgia was quite harsh on me and some people. Like 6 members of Ukrainian parliament. We brought over 30 members of parliament, Ukrainian parliament, because you have, as a member of parliament, different layer of security and protection as observers to Tbilisi on the day of election. And I was training them, and they helped a lot. But six of them stayed for a couple of days longer in Tbilisi, partly for those protests organized by Saakashvili, and they got arrested. So I got detained many times. So if you do the same, like, let's say, in Russia and Belarus, it will be a little bit more consequences. And we know it especially from still having a lot of political prisoners in Russia and in Belarus. So it's just a matter of being sane and insane in a way in what you do. So yeah, grassroots. Remind me quick. So how can we apply grassroots strategies for?
And specifically, like, what do you see as the structural changes within the political systems of post-Soviet states that would need to happen?
So first of all, I believe the change of political paradigm. As I said, like, if you operate in a political system where, like, in order to be a candidate, you have to earn it or you have to pay for. So I believe this is what I probably will try to do in America next as a next project. Guess what? In America are roughly 500,000 open positions to run for. Roughly, guys, 200,000 from there, 200,000 slots are in the municipal level area. So between 60 and 70%, I have some numbers for you. Between 60 and 70% of these spots are just uncontested. Why? Because nobody runs. Because it's like, it's hard. Do you know what's the major issue in the United States is in order to run for office is to know the filing date. Because the city party, the city council, or the city party just have an interest to maintain those people they have. They aren't interested in the competition. They get basically people in the spots to elevate particular type of people, business people. Why? Because they can donate, because they can write check, or maybe they run themselves and pay for their campaign themselves. Guess what? They have a party they have a money coming from DNC, so they keep this money. Not direct in your pocket, but like for own projects, for whatever fun stuff they have. So 70% of 200,000 positions are uncontested. This is crazy. This is crazy. Like in some places, like I'll give you an example of California. You have depending on the city, depending on county, you have filing dates variation in the same state from 138 days to almost 80 days before the election day. So most of the people have a hard time to find out like when you have to file. So the party doesn't really make it really like easy accessible. There's so many. You will be really surprised. Party offices having an office, having like a structure, not having a website. So you have to call there. You have to like trying to like really battle through this noise and in order just to get like in LA you have a filing window of 5 days. If you miss it, I'm sorry. Wait next 4 years. Done. So this is so changing this paradigm is really important. Like to make a friend of mine who is running this website. It's called Run for Office, where you basically typing in the address, and it's co-sponsored by Nation Builder, a political software that help you to organize and build a campaign. They try to do this, and they still cannot digitalize the whole United States of America. 2019, guys, they have like 70–80% of the data. So you're tapping in the dark. You don't know where to run, how to run. So not only you don't know where, then the second question, how to run. Once again, you have to have consultant. Like, just imagine me right now, like being confronted with a challenge to go and dance ballet. Hell no, I don't know what to do. You know, like where to start, like what exercise to take, and the same thing. So now, if you change this paradigm, if you make politics like easy, accessible, so why everybody is able to navigate here with this device, even my mom? No? Why? Because it's user-friendly. It's created the whole idea. This company wasn't there, if you look back, Nokia was, or BlackBerry, or like the biggest players. But what did they do differently? They didn't want to sell phones. They wanted to make a revolution in the way we consume the phone. So the user experience is different. So just imagine if we create a different user experience with politics. If you, if it's easy for you like to apply, you just like fill up application like getting a dentist appointment, bang. Second step, the software, and that's what we did in Russia, takes a huge chunk of your work. So we created a software for first time when we ran those 3,000 people, 1,000 people campaigns. Because how do you run 1,000 people? You basically have to have 1,000 campaign managers, 1,000 graphic designers, 1,000 lawyers. Impossible, especially if you don't have money. So how do you do it? You automate a lot of processes. So we created for first time software. We don't have it even in the States. It's really remarkable, actually, for Russia especially, where, like in game, you have to go through the quest, through the steps. Like in a game, if you on a level 1, you have just particular like shooter weapons, but your challenge is also not like really hard. But once you manage the level 1, you get to the next step. It's getting harder, but you have more, you know, like grenades or whatever. So the same way we set up not just the software. Here's candidate. Here's your software. You just have to figure out how to do it or hire the consultant. We created a software where you were like in sport apps. We were like guiding the guy, the girl, like the candidate every day of a step. And we were creating those steps really understandable. So we said, like, for today, you don't have the whole software and the whole, like, I don't know, range of goals, like how to find volunteers, how to do this, implications. For today, you just have to do this, and it's done. You know, until you finish this step, you cannot move on. So the step 2 will never be active for you until you finish the step 1. So to make an example, you have to register. You know? Good, step 1. Second step, you have to fill out some like tax number, whatever information, and your bank account. Once the step 2 is done, you have to register account for a campaign. Once the account is registered, just when it's registered, your step number 4 is active and your fundraising page is active. When you just get enough funds, not just when you got like just a little bit, let's print just a couple of pieces of literature. No, when you get enough funds, you get next step activated in your software, like step by step, to do some, let's say, first piece of literature, and so on, and so on. So you do not overwhelm the candidate with a lot of tasks. Just give them like as they go, as they grow. And this different principle, like talking about the strategy, help us not to run 1,000 campaigns, to create 1,000 campaign managers, create 1,000 people running for office, like potential candidates, 1,000 graphic designers. You know, like of course a lot of stuff was pre-template, like Wix website builder. You know, like you can move stuff. But you're still limited on what you can do, because otherwise people are like spending 10,000 hours on deciding which color is the best for logo. You know? Seriously, it's terrible. So at some point we wanted to be democratic, as democratic as possible, that the candidate can decide what to do with, like, let's say, website phase. You know, But then you see a lot of candidates like spending so much time on it and never be like procrastinating, basically like not moving forward. So we set up an update timer. So you have like 3 minutes to decide. Oh man. If not, you have customized like just by default, bang. You know, here's when you create like a description of, let's say, of your CV or real life, you don't have like huge paragraph. You just have like in Twitter, let's say 300 signs, like and 15 minutes. You know, of course we prepare. We tell ahead of the time, like look, you will be having just 15 minutes to create it, so you better be thinking about it ahead of the time. And then just copy paste. You know, that makes sense. So you create a lot of flows, workflows that are understandable, not challenging, quite easy to understand, but basically shifting. And this is really important. Shifting the responsibility, not to campaign manager, not to the party, not the party chair, to yourself. You as a candidate are responsible, and if you succeed in what you do, then you win. You cannot blame campaign, you cannot blame logo, you cannot blame party, you cannot blame someone else. You, only you. We create you tools, we give you all the analytics, we'll tell you what to do, but you still have to do heavy lifting, weightlifting. So, and we support you with training, of course. We see your performance. If you underperform, we help you. We also help you with fundraising, of course. We don't let you stay in the rain. So I believe this, if you change this paradigm, what does Uber help you to get from A to B? Politics doesn't help you. This is the problem. If you want to get elected, nobody helps you unless you pay for it. Or unless you know someone from the party who is like your, I don't know, uncle. You know, maybe he will help you. So and this is the problem. This is a fundamental problem in the structure of every party in the United States, in Germany, and especially in Russia. So for first time in the history, we tried to apply a different game to how the party and how politics works in Russia. Basically, with one single idea. Politics should be just like services, like just professional services, like dentist, like a waiter. If you serve good, you get good tip. If you work good, and as a politician, you get reelected. If not, bye. Simple. Why is the DNC running a campaign of Hillary Clinton or someone else, doesn't matter, spending $1 billion on it? All the consultants, all the people, they lose, and they still keep the job. Like normal person, if you run a coffee shop around the corner, if you don't pay attention to your business plan, if you're not friendly to your visitors, you're gone. Those guys are still there. It doesn't make sense. Why? It doesn't make sense. It just look at it like through simple business KPIs. In a business, you would be dead by now, but they're still there. So this is one of the challenges, like to change the paradigm in the party, where you actually don't need a party, but also in the heads of people, to portray, to make politics look like a normal professional services, dentist, Uber, pizza. It's nothing special. It's not like someone who was given us through godness, like Putin, you know, like to rule this wonderful country. No, it's just simple management. Just simple management. To be a president is nothing special. It's just like run a pizza shop. It's just a bigger pizza and the shop is bigger. That's all.
Well, we are unfortunately out of time, but please join me in thanking Vitali.